welcome to Kriss Beauty. Finally, I'm not gonna sit here and lie, I have done this intro like maybe 7 times because I'm a freaking psycho and I have been struggling. But finally, welcome to Kriss Beauty. My name is Christina. For those of you who do not know me, some of you call me Kriss, others Tina, whatever you prefer, that's fine with me. So welcome to my YouTube channel. Finally, this has been such a long time coming because like I should have been did this, but it was just out of fear and not feeling ready and things like that. But I'm finally here and I am ready to reveal all my favorites and let you guys see all the tea. Anyways, so today I'm going to be going over some of my newest favorites, including this Wet n Wild Cushion Foundation, this Chasing Rainbows palette, and then of course my James Charles palette that I have been dying to use on camera. So I'm gonna be doing a little glam today. If you're from my Instagram and my Facebook family, please let me know in the comments below. Also, please subscribe to my channel. And yeah, so let's get started. All right, so I brought you guys in just a little bit because I wanted you guys to see what's really going on. So I'm suffering from a lot of texture right now. I broke out a little bit and this camera's making me look super yellow. Trust me, I'm not that yellow. I'm a little bit pale right now. But yeah, so I'm all moisturized. My brows are done. One of my favorite, like my go-to brow product is the Brow Stylist Definer from Loreal, and I'm in the shade Brunette. And now I'm going to clean them up with some concealer, and I also moisturize with the same Ives Collagen plus Elastin moisturizer. I'm gonna be using the Maybelline FitMe concealer in the shade Light 10, and I'm gonna be using that to conceal under my brows and also to prime my lids. Alright, so now that my eyes are concealed and pretty much ready to go, I'm just gonna prime my face because I kind of like to let my primer sit while I'm doing my eyes and really penetrate into the skin. So first, I'm going to take this HydraTouch from NYX. It is one of my newest favorite primers because it is super hydrating, and like I said, I have super dry skin. So I like to take a good amount like this, and I like to place it everywhere, specifically around my nose because that's where makeup tends to break up for me and where things get really flaky, cakey, and dry. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to take that and focus specifically here, and then the rest of my face. I kind of pat it more into my nose rather than rubbing it because I don't want it to like diffuse too much because I want to keep my nose like extra hydrated. And then under my eyes and all around my face. So at this point, I would usually take my baby skin from Maybelline and I would put that on my porous areas. I don't really have big pore areas and I try to be careful with that, especially if I'm feeling extra dry, which I am today. So I'm not actually going to put that pore filler primer in, but I will, however, put a little bit of the Airspun setting powder, which is another step not necessary that I like to do before I apply foundation and before I do my eyes. So I'm taking the Airspun setting powder and I'm just going to use the back of my Morphe contour and highlight sponge. By the way, another one of my favorites right now, and I'm just going to put that on the back of it. And like I'm going to continue to say, I have super dry skin, so I want to be very careful. Very lightly. And it's just gonna help mattify that. And I'm gonna put a little bit on my forehead because I have a little bit of disrespectful wrinkles, you know what I'm saying? My smile lines around the mouth. Alright, so I was super gentle with that. I don't want to go in. So now I'm going to move on to the eyes finally, and I'm actually going to take my Morphe sponge again, and I'm just going to pat that concealer in a little bit so it's not so creasy. Alright guys, so like I said, I'm going to be dipping into my James Charles palette. I'm just absolutely like in love with this palette because it has such a variety of colors. You have your warm tones, your neutral tones, you have your colorful, you have a whole array of like transition-y sort of shades in the middle, plus this really pretty gold highlight shade, which I'm kind of obsessed with right now. I'm gonna be dipping into this, and I think I'm going to start off with a pencil sort of dense brush. First, I'm going to dip into this shade right here, kind of like a cranberry shade, but it's super dark, and I'm taking this on a pencil sort of dense brush, and I get my brushes from Amazon. I'm not super like popping. I'm just not that fancy yet. So I'm gonna take this brush and I'm going to place this right in my crease area, and I'm just stamping that in. I'm not necessarily sweeping anything because I wanted to stay specific in the crease area. Alright, so this is what it looks like. I just placed that in my crease. I didn't sweep, I didn't go up or down. It's literally just stamped in my crease. But moving on, I am going to dip into this mauve shade right here, and I'm going to take an angled fluffy brush like this, and I am just going to place that right above that crease shade and really pack that on. Alright, so I took my angled brush and I put that mauve shade all over the very top of my crease and even towards my brow, and then I actually had to go back in and define a little bit more. I know it's looking crazy as hell right now, but it will come together, of course. Alright, so now I'm going to take my fluffy brush and dip into this lighter pink, this lighter baby pink here in the corner, and I'm going to use that to diffuse and to blend out towards my brow. So now I'm going to finally just cut my crease, and I'm going to be using the ProConceal from LA Girl. This is in the shade Light Ivory. It really does come up as sort of like a peach tone, but it is a really good concealer to cut the crease because I like a little bit more of a thicker concealer rather than the FitMe concealer from Maybelline, because that one is a little bit more runny. So I'm going to be using this to cut my crease with my Morphe M421 concealer brush. Okay, so I cut one of my creases, and as you can see, I brought it sort of all the way down to this outer corner, and now I'm gonna cut my other crease off of camera to save a little bit of time, and I'll be right back. So I just cut my crease, and I brought you guys in just a little bit closer because I wanted you guys to see sort of the transition of that mauve shade and then the darker plum shade and then the cut crease. So now I'm going to place down some shimmer, and so I'm going to dip into this Chasing Rainbows palette from Colourpop, another one of my absolute favorites. It's just everything about this is like my dream. You can just play with these colors so much, and I just love the texture of these. So I'm going to dip into this bronzy shade right here. That's what it looks like, and I'm just going to place that over on my lid, and let's see where it takes us. So I'm just gonna use my finger first because I don't want that pigment to go to waste. I'm doing the other eye. The shade that I just used was Eclipse, which was that bronzy shade. And now I'm gonna dip into this lavender shimmer shade called Not Playin'. And then I'm gonna mix it in with Blurred Lines, which is one of my favorite shades out of this palette because it's like a white shimmer with a golden undertone, and I live for it. And I'm using my small concealer brush from Morphe once again. I didn't even wet these at all and they just look so stunning. So now I'm gonna go into blurred lines and I'm just gonna place that right on top of the lavender shade to kind of give it more of like a pop. And I'm barely like touching this shade and it's just like so super blinding. All right, so now that my shimmers are on, I think I want to do something to this outer corner to sort of give it like that va va voom effect, you know what I'm saying? So I am going to take, all right, so I'm going to take my Real Techniques brush and I'm just going to dip into this magenta shade in the James Charles palette. And it's a matte shade, and so I'm gonna place that right over this bronzy shade, so not necessarily in the middle, pretty like close to it. And I'm just using this to pack it on. Alright, so I really packed it on. I sort of left the outer corners sort of blank because I do want to put a little bit more of a darker color. So I brought the magenta shade right on this spot right here, and then I sort of blended it with that bronzy shade. And I think I'm gonna use the same brush to bring the magenta a little bit into the crease, like so. So right over that crease shade that we used earlier, that darker plum shade. So I just literally brought it here, up, and over. And I love this Real Techniques brush because it's a little bit more precise and it's not gonna disperse everything everywhere, but it does have a fluffy feel to it, and so you can swipe back and forth if you need to. So this is what it looks like, and like I said, the ends are still looking bare as ever. So now I'm gonna dip back into this Chasing Rainbows palette, and I really want to dip into this darker purple. So I want to do more of like that plum shade sort of vibey feel. So I'm just gonna take this with the same brush and I'm just going to fill in the space at the end, and I'm just using that to pack it on. That Real Techniques brush, and I'm sort of flicking it up and over. And so I'm just taking this fluffy brush and I'm using that to sort of blend all the way around, and I'll even use the same brush to go back into that purple shade. Oh girl, all right, so that ended up taking a little hot minute to finagle and things like that. And of course it still looks how it looks because I have to apply foundation and concealer and all that, and I'll end up cleaning up this bottom. But I'm gonna add a little liner and lashes off of camera really quick, and I will be right back. So I went ahead and added some Eyelure Definition number 128 lashes, and I added some liner, which was the Super Cat liner from Soap and Glory. And honestly, sometimes all it really takes is some lashes and some eyeliner to, you know, to bring the look together a little more, you know what I'm saying, like a little bit more cohesive, because things are kind of looking a lot better. So I also took a little bit of that ProConceal and I just concealed a little bit under the liner so you guys can get a little bit more of a clearer view of how things are supposed to be looking. And now I think I'm finally gonna move on to my cushion foundation and finish up the face. I'm gonna take this cushion foundation from WetNwild. This is a lightweight foundation and I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I did well, I started to review it yesterday, but you know, I don't know what happened. So I'm gonna use a little bit of this, but because the shade is a teensy bit light on me, I am gonna mix it with my absolute favorite foundation, which is this Maybelline foundation. This is the Dewy and Smooth, and this is the shade 220, and I'm just gonna mix and match just a little bit. So I'm gonna take my Morphe sponge again, and I'm gonna start off with this lightweight foundation first and see how it sort of like holds, and then I'll probably add in that Maybelline. See, and it's not too bad like when I add some, you know, contour and things like that, but I do like a little bit more of coverage, which the Maybelline does give to me. This is more of like a skin-like finish, so I do just want to add just a touch. And this foundation smells so good, like really good. I am gonna go under the eyes, but more so under the wing, just a little bit more, just so I can clean that up a little bit. I really don't put foundation under the eyes much, just because I add concealer and I don't like for it to be, you know, too cakey and look a hot ass mess. So I'm just very careful with that. And I just really love this foundation because it doesn't make anything look cakey. It makes things look like, I mean, it's definitely a buildable foundation, which I really love, but it just makes things look so luminous and like healthy, and I love it. I love it. So this is how it looks with just the Wet n Wild foundation. I am gonna add this Maybelline one, just a tiny bit, and I really do mean a tiny bit. Usually when I say a tiny bit, I'm lying. So I really am gonna go in with a really small amount. I have to be really careful. So I took this amount, which I'm super surprised and super proud of myself because I usually pack it on. So I'm just gonna put some here and just sort of add a little bit more coverage on top of that Wet n Wild. I try to be super careful with my brows that they don't wipe off, but sometimes it does happen, girl. So if you have to go back in, that's fine. That's expected though. Like when you start off with your brows and your eyes and things like that, sometimes you have to go back in. All right, so I still have about half of it still on the back of my hand, but I am gonna keep it like this only because I just don't want to pack it on anymore, and the contour, the cream contour and the bronzer will sort of help even it out, but it is a little bit more of a better color match. So I'm gonna conceal and show you how I cream contour, and then I'll blend it out and set off camera. But first, let me show you what I use to cream contour and how I do it. So I like to use this Stila Custom Contour Duo little compact, and obviously it's seriously been used before. And I like to use this shade. This is actually the light one, and I like to use this contour shade. So I'm just gonna take a clean concealer brush and I'm gonna use this contour shade, and I start off with my cheekbones. So I put it like right above where I'm supposed to, and this is a little bit of a heavy contour, and this part is totally optional. You definitely do not have to do this part at all, but I like to snatch the chin and the face and my life, so I love to do cream contour, but it's totally like not necessary. And I am going right above my cheekbone and right up the side of my face, and this is more of a heavy cream contour. You can definitely do a light one, but you know, you'll learn how much of a snatched queen I like to be. I definitely like to take it right where my, you know, my jaw, my chin is, and I kind of like to push my face out and go right on that jawline. And so I'm just using this to shape my face, and then I don't forget the double chin because she needs extra help sometimes. And then some people like to do like under their lip and things like that. I am gonna snatch my nose just a little bit, so a little bit of a cream contour on the nose. Again, another step that is not necessary whatsoever. I don't always cream contour my nose, so it's just more of like a, you know, how you feeling sort of day, you know what I mean? So now I'm going to conceal under the eyes. I like to use my ProConceal and my Maybelline concealers. As you can see, they are two different, like two totally different shades, but this is more of a thicker formula like I said earlier, and this is more of a non-crease concealer, so I like to use both of them together. So I'm taking this FitMe first, and I'm using this to kind of chisel things out. And I also go up the side of my nose. And then now I'll take the ProConceal and I'll use it on the remainder under my eyes, and this just gives me that extra coverage and things like that. At first I was really scared to use this shade, and I actually didn't use it for a few weeks because when I put it on the back of my hand, it was so peachy and orange toned, and I was like really like afraid to put that on my face and mess up everything. But it has like the best coverage in the world. And look at how glowy and dewy I'm already looking. So I'm just gonna blend out the chin first, and this. Now I'm going to blend out my concealer. Alright, so now that that is blended out, I'm just going to take the side of my blender and I'm just going to use that to diffuse this creamy contour a little bit. Not a little bit, a lot. And you really want to take your time blending things out, just because you don't want it to look like a patchy, unblended mess on your face, especially around the hairline and the forehead. Just take your time. And now I'm just going to snatch the chin up and sort of blend down into my neck area. Okay, and I'm just going to blend out this nose. I'm gonna take the side of this sponge. And like I said, sometimes this part really just doesn't matter because you are gonna bronze on top of it. So if this ends up diffusing, which mine's usually ends up doing that, then that is fine. All right, so now I am going to bronze and set off camera to save some time, and I'll be back to highlight and blush and finish up my under eyes and the lips, and we are done, girl. All right, so now I'm all bronzed up and set and everything like that. So I took my Airspun setting powder and I, just basically focused under my eyes and used the brush to sort of fan out on my face. And I actually ended up taking my Morphe 8W blush palette that I was going to use originally for blush, and that I still am going to use for blush. And I took the shade Unapologetic and I used that as a bronzer today. And now I'm just setting under my bronzer a little bit, and now I'm going to move on to blush. So I'm going to dip into Golds and Sweet, which is this pale pink and this little more of a vibrant pink. And I'm going to use that with my angled brush. So I'm gonna dip into Sweet first, just because I'm honestly like not really the biggest blush type of person. So I like to kind of go in a little bit, soft at first, and then we'll build up momentum, So I'm just using this on the apple of my cheeks, and it does give a little bit of that pigment. So now I'm going to dip into Golds, which is that more pinky blush. And I'm just putting this right above that bronzer and on the apples of my cheeks. I'm just going to hit the nose a little bit. And I'm actually going to sweep away this setting powder. Alright, so now that the face is almost complete, I'm going to finish under the eyes. And I'm going to use my Chasing Rainbows palette just because it's like right next to me. So I'm actually going to go into the shade called Woke. It is more of like a pinky mauve sort of type of shade. And then I'm going to go into Keep It Cool, and we're just going to figure it out from there. I'm actually going to go into Keep It Cool first, and I'm going to put this against my lower lash line specifically. And then I'll sort of smoke it out with Woke. So I'm taking my pencil brush again, and I'm just sort of stamping it right on my lash line. Now I'm going to take that angle brush that I used earlier, and I'm going to take Woke, and I'm just going to smoke out this lower lash line a little bit. So now I'm going to take one of my favorite mascaras, which is this Thrive mascara. It is super, super, super duper heavy. And these are literally like lash extensions in a freaking bottle. I'm actually going to connect my real lashes with my falsies, and then I'm going to do my lower lash line. Alright, so now I'm going to go back into this Chasing Rainbows palette, and I'm going to take Blurred Lines, and I'm going to put that on my inner corner and on my brow bone. So I'm going to take this super small lip brush, and I'm going to place that right in my inner corner. Like, look at how crazy blinding that is. Oh my god, this is like the perfect shade. I love like two-tone duochrome sort of situations. Sometimes I go a little bit in, so I have to be very, very careful. And I'm also going to put that on my brow bone with the same brush. It's right, you know? And I literally, like, this is not wet. I literally take like the tiniest bit of it, and I just, you know, I really get my life together. So speaking of blurred lines, I'm gonna use this as a highlight shade, and I'm going to actually probably dip into Not Playing, which is that lavender shade, just because I want sort of like a gold purple highlight, which is what I've been kind of obsessed with. So I'm going to take my Real Technique setting brush. This is sort of used to set under the eyes, but I do not use it for that whatsoever. So I'm going to dip into this, and I'm going to try not to do it too much, because sometimes, because of this shade and how light it is, it could come off very white on the skin. So I'm going to try to not go too in. Do you see that? Do you see that? I know you see what I see, right? I love a good highlight. Look. You have no idea how good this looks. I'm putting that right above the brow. I'm doing the other side. Oh my god. If I could bathe in this, I would. And I'm gonna use that on my finger. Oh my god, I did too much. I did too much. My nose, and on the bridge of my nose. Look at that. Right above my Cupid's bow, my chin. And then I'm gonna dip very, very, very lightly into Not Playing, which is that lavender shade. And I do have to dip lightly into that one because it is more of that purple. So you have to be very, very, very careful. There's nothing better than gold and purple together. I just wanted to make that PSA, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so this is what the highlight looks like. I've just been obsessed with using this as a highlight lately. Clearly you know why. It just looks amazing. So now I'm going to use my Makeup Revolution Sports Fix setting spray, and I'm just gonna spray the face. Whew. And then I kind of like to fan it out, and then take my sponge and press everything in, especially the highlight. If I go a little bit too in, you know, it just melts into the skin. See, so things are still blinding, but they're kind of like blinding in a together sort of way. All right, so now I'm gonna do my lips, which is the last step. I'm going to be using the shade Skinny Dip from Tattoo Junkie. This is my favorite shade ever because I feel like it's sort of my nude. It's definitely my lip shade, and it goes perfect with today's look as well. So I'm gonna be using that for sure on my lips. But before I do that, I do like to go in with like my brow pencil or some sort of brown liner, excuse me. And I kind of like to overline my lips just a little bit to give it more of that like pouty sort of feel. All right, so I went right above my actual lip line, if not on my lip line, and I kind of use my finger to diffuse it a little bit. This is sort of like a lip contour, if you will. Some people call it that. I just like to use it to plump my lips up. So now I'm going to take Skinny Dip, which is actually waterproof, long lasting, smudge proof, and this thing really stays on forever. So it is drying down. I kind of went a little bit above my line by accident, so I kind of had to make it work, girl. So it is drying down, and sometimes I like to put a little bit of the Libra lip gloss from WetNwild, you know, if I want like a glossy sort of thing, but I think I'll keep it like this today. All right, so this is the finished look. I think it looks absolutely stunning. I think I'm most in love with my skin. I'm telling you, this cushion foundation from WetNwild is life. It's definitely one of my new favorites. It just leaves that luminous, lightweight finish to your skin, and that's just one of the things that I need, because sometimes I go a little bit too in with my FitMe, but I still love my FitMe, don't get me wrong. But I'm really just loving how this came out. I'm loving the color combination, everything, including this highlights. My Colourpop and my James Charles palette really came through for me. So I am just totally loving this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you loved it, please comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Also, let me know what you want to see in future videos, because I will be uploading so many videos. And do not forget to turn on your bell notifications so you do not miss out. Thank you so much for tuning into Kriss Beauty. If you are from my Facebook or Instagram family, also comment that down below. I love everyone's support. I love all the positive comments. So make sure that you subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.